Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, 3rd Canto, 21st chapter, text number 12. Jata harsho patanmurna kshito labdha manoratah girbhistvabhyagranat priti स्वभावात्मा कृतांजलि. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Translation. When Kardama Muni actually realized the Supreme Personality of Godhead in person, he was greatly satisfied because his transcendental desire was fulfilled. He fell on the ground with his head bowed to offer obeisances unto the lotus feet of the Lord, his heart naturally full of love of God. With folded hands he satisfied the Lord with prayers. The realization of the personal form of the Lord is the highest perfectional stage of yoga. In the 6th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, where yoga practice is described, this realization of the personal form of the Lord is called the perfection of yoga. After practicing the sitting postures and other regulative principles of the system, one finally reaches the stage of samadhi, absorption in the Supreme. In the samadhi stage, one can see the Supreme Personality of Godhead in his partial form as Paramatma, or as he is. Samadhi is described in authoritative yoga scriptures such as the Patanjali Sutras to be a transcendental pleasure. The yoga system described in the books of Patanjali is authoritative, and the modern so-called yogis who have manufactured their own ways, not consulting the authorities, are simply ludicrous. The Patanjali yoga system is called Ashtanga Yoga. Sometimes impersonalists pollute the Patanjali yoga system because they are monists. Patanjali describes that the soul is transcendently pleased when he meets the supersoul and sees him. If the existence of the supersoul and the individual is admitted, then the impersonalist theory of monism is nullified. Therefore, some impersonalists and void philosophers twist the Patanjali system in their own way and pollute the whole yoga process. According to Patanjali, when one becomes free from all material desires, he attains his real transcendental situation, and realization of that stage is called spiritual power. In material activities, a person engages in the modes of material nature. The aspirations of such people are, first, to be religious, second, to be economically enriched, third, to be able to gratify the senses, and at last, to become one with the Supreme. According to the monists, when a yogi becomes one with the Supreme and loses his individual existence, he attains the highest stage called Kaivalya. But actually the stage of realization of the personality of Godhead is Kaivalya. The oneness of understanding that the Supreme Lord is fully spiritual, and that in full spiritual realization one can understand what he is. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is called Kaivalya, or in the language of Patanjali, realization of spiritual power. His proposal is that when one is freed from material desires and fixed in spiritual realization of the self and the super self, that is called Chit Shakti. In full spiritual realization, there is a perception of spiritual happiness, and that happiness is described in Bhagavad Gita as the supreme happiness which is beyond the material senses. Trance is described to be of two kinds, samprajnata and asamprajnata, or mental speculation and self-realization. In samadhi or asamprajnata, one can realize by his spiritual senses the spiritual form of the Lord. That is the ultimate goal of spiritual realization. According to Patanjali, when one is fixed in constant realization of the supreme form of the Lord, one has attained the perfectional stage as attained by Kardama Muni. Unless one attains this stage of perfection beyond the perfection of the preliminaries of the yoga system, there is no ultimate realization. There are 8 perfections in the Ashtanga Yoga system. One who has attained them can become lighter than the lightest and greater than the greatest, and he can achieve whatever he likes. But even achieving such material success in yoga is not the perfection or the ultimate goal. The ultimate goal is described here. Kardama Muni saw the Supreme Personality of Godhead in his eternal form. Devotional service begins with the relationship of the individual soul and the Supreme Soul or Krishna and Krishna's devotees. And when one attains it, there is no question of falling down. If through the yoga system one wants to attain the stage of seeing the Supreme Personality of Godhead face to face, but is attracted instead to attainment of some material power, then he is deterred from proceeding further. Material enjoyment, as encouraged by bogus yogis, has nothing to do with the transcendental realization of spiritual happiness. Real devotees of Bhakti Yoga accept only the material necessities of life absolutely needed to maintain the body and soul together. They refrain completely from all exaggerated material sense gratification. They are prepared to undergo all kinds of tribulation provided they can make progress in the realization of the personality of Godhead. Thus ends the Bhaktivedanta purport.
So Kardami Muni, as this verse says, he was greatly satisfied because his transcendental desire was fulfilled. So it is very clear that Kardama Muni was not meditating without a desire. He had a desire. It is not that he was trying to make his mind empty, etc. He had a desire. As Prabhupada explains, this is a process of Ashtanga Yoga. In later years, it has come to be known, especially modern age, it has come to be known as Patanjali Yoga Sutra. But Patanjali also has derived everything from the original Bhagavatam, from the original scriptures, from the Vedas. The purpose, as Prabhupada is explaining here very clearly, the purpose of the Ashtanga Yoga is also to satisfy the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So there is a desire. The desire is to please the Supreme Lord. Every stage of Ashtanga Yoga also, the do's and don'ts, are all meant for pleasing the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But in the modern age, wherever we see the present day Patanjali Yoga system that is being talked about, there is no Vishnu, there is no Krishna being talked about. They only talk about breathing, they only talk about some meditation, all this kind of. And it is being marketed to the people as giving peace of mind and happiness. Obviously, they are talking about material happiness and material peace of mind. But this is all very shallow objectives of this Patanjali Yoga system. It's a byproduct. The real objective of controlling the mind or making the mind peaceful, everything, or eliminating material desires, becoming free from material desires, so that your desiring potency is fully on the Supreme Personality of Godhead to satisfy Him. So, Ashtanga Yoga, according to our Bhagavata process, is not a process that can be practiced in this age. But what we learn from all these different processes of yoga is that the ultimate goal is to transcendentally see the transcendental form of the Lord. Obviously, we cannot see the transcendental form of the Lord with these eyes. You cannot materially see the transcendental form of the Lord. You have to see the transcendental form of the Lord with the transcendental eyes. That means if our transcendental eyes have to open, then we have to purify ourselves. Right now, we are blind. By the mercy of the spiritual master, we open our eyes. Om Ajnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakya. With the eyes of Jnana. by the mercy of the spiritual master, that transcendental eyes has to open. So when transcendental eyes are open, then only you can see the transcendental form of the Lord. So therefore Prabhupada explains in several places that self-realization and God realization go together. You cannot have God realization without self-realization. You cannot have self-realization without God realization. Because you cannot have self-realization unless you realize that you are part and parcel of God. That means the God realization is already there. So these processes at the end of Ashtanga Yoga or successful completion of Ashtanga Yoga, Prabhupada explains here, the scriptures say that all the Ashtasiddhis they get. These yogis, they get all the Ashtasiddhis. In the material world, all the Ashtasiddhis they get. Of course, that is not the purpose. Ashtasiddhis, even if they get, the origin, why Ashtasiddhi is being offered to them or given to them? But they will do good to the, the population. They'll do good means spiritually good to this population. Because ultimately, common man, there are 4 principles in this material world according to, as Prabhupada explains here. The aspirations of such people are to be religious, that is dharma, to be economically enriched, artha, to be able to gratify the senses, which is kama, and to become one with the Supreme, moksha. So our understanding of moksha is different and their understanding of moksha is different. Our understanding of moksha is to be eternally separate from the Lord in devotional service, not merge into His. We don't kill our identity. We want to eternally serve the Lord. That is our understanding of moksha. And impersonalist understanding of moksha is my individuality vanishes into the Supreme Lord, who also does not have any individuality. There is no individuality. Individuality means illusion. Identity means illusion. Identity means guna. Individuality means guna. There is no guna. There is no rupa. There is no kriya. No activities at all in Brahman. So, when these yogis, when they attain perfection, they become gurus of the entire universe. These rishis become gurus of the entire universe. And they use their siddhis or use their power, as Prabhupada is saying here, that Patanjali calls it as spiritual power. The spiritual power is used in service of the Supreme Lord, whom they have seen. They understand the purpose of the greatest achievement for the soul is to lead them to the form of the Lord, to lead them to service of this wonderful personality. So, seeing the form of the Lord is just the beginning of devotional service. No doubt that seeing the form and that beginning is something very exalted beginning. Straight away pure devotional service. Now we are all doing devotional service. We have not seen the transcendental form of the Lord. Because we have not seen we have not opened our transcendental eyes. So without opening the transcendental eyes, we cannot see the transcendental form of the Lord. So if you see, our process of, no doubt, an Ashtanga yogi who has reached that stage of seeing the form of the Lord is a great soul. It's a great achievement. But how many such souls can we find? Probably none in this Kali. And it is meant for another yuga. Because of Srila Prabhupada's enlightening us, we are able to place the different yoga processes in its right perspective. We don't get bewildered by, somebody, talking about Patanjali yoga system or Ashtanga yoga, meditation, all these things. Immediately everything comes into right perspective by the mercy of Srila Prabhupada. What is the original goal of Ashtanga Yoga? What is the relationship between that and our Bhakti Yoga? So now, for us also, the ultimate goal is the form of the Lord. Ultimate goal is to serve the Lord. Ultimate goal is to engage in practical, eternal devotion service to the Lord in the spiritual world. And now, when we are still conditioned, it is still possible to please the Supreme Lord, even in this conditioned state, under the guidance of a bona fide spiritual master. Morning to evening, we can please the Supreme Lord, who is in our heart, by following Srila Prabhupada's instruction. And that is our good fortune. Because in this Kali Yuga, the most difficult thing is to ascertain what to do, what not to do. Suppose a karmi is genuinely seeking, I really want to do the right thing, what to do, what not to do. He has no solution. And whereas we are just see here, we are so fortunate. What to do, what not to do is straight away available. Because of having attained the mercy of the lotus feet of Srila Prabhupada, it is so clear for us. Our path is clear, only we have to walk in that path. But 99% of the population, they do not know the path itself. Now we know the path and we have to struggle in that path. Whatever struggle we have to do, we have to struggle because it is worth it. In the wrong path you struggle, what is the use? So ultimately, to get realization of the positive, transcendental variegatedness of the Lord, to engage in practical devotion service with our spiritual senses in the spiritual world, which is the ultimate goal of the devotion service that we are practicing. And as we discussed yesterday, the transcendental form of the Lord is not some form of light which we see in movies. Suddenly Lord appeared in light. There's a tendency for us to think. That is why yesterday I explained that transcendental form of the Lord is not a light form. It is Advaya Jnana. It is self-conscious knowledge. It is self-conscious personality. And the supreme self-conscious personality is Krishna, Adi Purusha. And we are all his part and parcel. As part and parcels, we are also particles of self-conscious personalities. And our occupational definition is, occupational identity is, I am servant of Krishna. Different identities we have. We can have under this general category. Just like if somebody is father to his children, husband to his wife. So different identities are there. Person is same. Is it not? So in the same way, the general occupational, eternal occupational identity of ours is what? Jivera Swarupa, Nitya Krishna Das. We are eternal servant of Krishna. And under the eternal servants of Krishna, so many varieties of service is possible. The 5 rasas is all described, it's all given, revealed to us in the nectar of devotion. But before all that, become very clear that we have to come out of this bodily concept of life by identifying ourselves also as part and parcel of that Advaya Jnana, that transcendental knowledge. There is no ignorance there. There is no ignorance there in Advaya Jnana. As I explained, one line of Prabhupada, when you hear from that Shabda, the rest of the knowledge is all also contained in it. In every small part, in one Shabda, Krishna, everything is contained. All knowledge is contained. All Rama, or Hare, all one single non-dual field of knowledge, transcendental knowledge. and the supreme controller, or the Param Ishvara of all, Parameshwara and as well as Bhokta, the enjoyer of everything, is, in the Advaita Jnana, is the Supreme Lord. Krishna is the personality of Krishna. So, then we should understand how direct process has been given to us of touching the Supreme Lord in various ways with proper knowledge. Just like you take prasadam with proper knowledge, then we touch the transcendental part of prasadam. You can touch the taste prasadam. You chant Mahaprasade Govinde, in that background when we touch, then we relate with prasadam. You cannot relate unless you have knowledge with whom you are relating. So you know this is Krishna prasadam, this is Krishna, when you relate. Exactly in the same way, holy name, deity, with proper background knowledge, which is received from the spiritual master. In that proper background knowledge, if you chant, then your chanting becomes a relationship with the Supreme Lord. And this chanting or prasadam, anything, one small part you touch, you are touching the entire existence. Because it is Advaita Jnana. It's a very mystical process. It's a highly mystical process. It is not that when you chant Hare Krishna or when you chant, as I explained yesterday, if you read these purports only with your intelligence, you will only get what is limited to this intelligence. Because this is nothing but intelligence. But with Shraddha, with faith, if you think, if you understand the principle of Advaita Jnana, if you are reading this with your intelligence, trying to understand it, but you have faith that this is Advaita Jnana, then actually you are touching not one page, you are touching entire knowledge. You are touching. That's why I said it is a mystical process. We do Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya. Every day we are reading one shloka, one purport. Actually we are touching. See, coming in contact with the ocean of transcendental knowledge. And when you come in contact with the ocean of transcendental knowledge, there are so many things that actually is delivered into us. That is how it is said that Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya, by daily serving Srimad Bhagavatam, eventually the heart becomes cleansed of Rajoguna, Tamoguna, Sattoguna, everything, and get established in Vishuddha Sattva. Because we are touching the ocean of knowledge, ocean of transcendental knowledge, ocean of not dry impersonal knowledge, not dry information. People think knowledge is information. No, knowledge is not information. Knowledge is self-conscious. Knowledge is personality. That is called realization. Jnana is information. Vijnana is self-realization. It is realization. No doubt. First jnana, then vijnana. Because we are now in ajnana. Therefore, first jnana is required, then vijnana will come. But jnana doesn't end. The process, jnanic process, they say there are jnana yogis. They cannot touch this ocean because they are faithless. Only with their intellect, how much they can understand, they move up. And the Shastras have already revealed that how far they can go. It is permitted for them to go up to Brahman. I am not this, I am not this, I am not this, they can go up to Brahman. But they are missing the entire opportunity to surrender to Krishna and automatically come in touch with the ocean of transcendental knowledge. So, it may sound so like Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in Benares, in the streets, he was chanting and going as a sannyasi, chanting and dancing. Everybody will be thinking, because they're all Mayavadis. Yes, but this is all preliminary stages. This bhakti, the chanting God's name are all preliminary stages. Why a sannyasi should, when only a person crosses all this bhakti yoga process, he should take sannyas. He's insulting the tradition. I should not be chanting and dancing and all. He should be sitting on Vedanta Sutras. He should be giving commentary. He should be talking about Vedanta Sutra, about Jnana. He should talk about Jnana. He should cross all these relationships. But this is how foolish they were. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is chanting Sankirtana, means he is touching the ocean of Advaita Jnana. Krishna Nama is given to us, we are touching the ocean of Advaita Jnana. We are trapped in this material world because we are not in harmonious with Advaita. We are not harmonious, our desires are not harmonious, our thinking is not harmonious, our feeling is not harmonious. Therefore, we are separated from the Lord. We become one with the Lord. We also say, as Prabhupada says, Kaivalya. We also talk about Kaivalya. Kaivalya means becoming one with the desire of the Lord, not one with your identity. One with the desire of the Lord. That means you are mad after the Lord. I only my Lord, my Lord, my Lord, my serving my Lord, serving my Lord, serving my Lord. That is Kaivalya. Any questions?
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Yes.
What is the essential difference between the realization of a Paramatma realization and a Bhagavan realization? Because here also we are seeing that Paramatma realization means he is realizing form of the Lord.
Right. In Paramatma realization, Hare Krishna. The Paramatma realization is a realization of the localized aspect of the Lord who is involved in, as a Param Ishvara, running this material world in terms of Upadrishta and Anumanta, one who is observing everything and is permitting all the desires of the living entity, facilitating all these things. One who is Param Ishvara means one who is the master of Kala, one who is controller of Kala. Everything, this entire material universe is running. Shirodaksha Vishnu is in a planet, and then he expands into every atom and every living entity, and that is how the material existence is there in each Brahmanda. So this is a localized aspect of the Lord. So when you see this, you are seeing the Shirodaksha Vishnu. And what is Shirodaksha Vishnu's mood? He is a master, he is a maintainer, he is a master of this universe. He is Narayana. He is the Lord of all Naras. He is the Lord of all Jivas. He is a master of this each universe. He has come out of Mahavishnu. He has expanded. Mahavishnu has become Shirodaksha Vishnu. So now, as far as Bhagavan is concerned, Bhagavan is a form and not particularly, let's not talk about the form. Even four-handed form is in Nara, in the spiritual world, Vaikuntha also. It's not that form is Paramatma. Narayana form is there in the spiritual world, in the Vaikuntha planets. So that is not, he is not Paramatma. He is reigning as in each planet as the Supreme Lord. Like that there are unlimited supreme spiritual planets. In each of the planet there is Narayana. Then there is the higher planets, there is Ayodhya, there is all these planets are there, spiritual, representing different rasas, and finally there is Krishna's world, that is Goloka Vrindavan. So Bhagavan means when you develop relationship in serving the Supreme Lord, in pure bhakti, not relating with the Lord for using him here, then that is Bhagavan realization. It's nothing to do with this world. It's a relationship with the Lord for the sake of the Lord. In other words, the rasa is different. The personality of Godhead as Paramatma, the rasa is different. Paramatma, the devotees relate with Paramatma as the Chaitya Guru, as one who is guiding. And it is this Paramatma who is manifest as external Guru, as various external Gurus. The Kali Yuga, it is rare. So we see that very rarely there are bona fide spiritual masters. But it is this Paramatma who, because why there are no hundreds of Prabhupada? Why Paramatma is not bringing forth hundreds of Prabhupada? Because there is no enough people to take up that. There are no enough disciples who want genuinely Krishna consciousness. Like Prabhupada said, Krishna told me to go to the spiritual material world and preach. So like that Prabhupada, Krishna could send so many jivas. So this material world is not a spiritual world. It's not the home of, this is not Krishna's home. Krishna's home is somewhere else. So when we relate with the Lord in that, for instance, let us say, we have got the Lord, the deity is Archa Vigraha. We serve the Lord as Radha Krishna. We serve him, we offer him food and everything. It is potentially possible to have a Bhagavan realization with here, when we are here itself. Bhagavan realization with Radha Krishna Chandra. When we do Sankirtana, chanting Hare Krishna Mahamantra, Krishna's and Radharani's name, it is all direct, it's Bhagavan realization. We are glorifying the enjoyment of Radha and Krishna. They are the supreme enjoyers. In the material world, if you see somebody enjoying without you, you get envious. Isn't it? See what is Sankirtana, Kirtan. Kirtan is saying, we are very happy, very, very happy. We are very happy. About what? Radha and Krishna enjoying. We are very happy. Radha and Krishna enjoying. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare. So Krishna and Radharani becomes very pleased because you're glorifying their relationship, they're glorifying their transcendental. This is Bhagavan. So there is so much opportunity for us. Of course, Prabhupada said when somebody is beginning stages of Krishna consciousness, he has to do everything in the altar as per rules and regulations strictly. Because unless there is a proper spiritual realization, one cannot, Bhagavan realization, there won't be any response. Only Lakshmi Narayana will take the offenses. Why you are not following? Why you are not offering on time? So the Lord is in that mood, and Srila Prabhupada, who is a pure devotee, by his mercy, in the Radha Krishna Chandra of Goloka Vrindavan, they are manifest as Radha Krishna Chandra. Lakshmi Narayana of Vaikuntha planet, they are manifest in the same deity. So according to our standard, according to our disposition, spiritual disposition, the respective deities reciprocate with us. They reciprocate with us. So that is the Bhagavan realization, Paramatma. Not that as long as you are in the material world, you can have only Paramatma realization. No, you can have Bhagavan realization. And that's what Prabhupada is saying. In fact, Prabhupada says, don't divert your mind from any form other than the two-handed form of Krishna. That is Bhagavan realization. Any other question? Jai Grandaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada ki jai.